Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. And today I've got another interview for you all. I'm trying not to say y'all because I I don't know where I picked that up, but anyway, I know that a lot of you have been enjoying these interviews, and it's been pretty cool to actually talk to and meet some of the people that I watch on YouTube that I feel produce valuable content. And as you guys have probably seen, from all ranges of from fitness to software development and to other things as well. But today I've got Brad Hussey on, and he is someone who I've been seeing pop up on my YouTube channel because he's got some very high quality tutorials that he's been putting out on YouTube, and his stuff is really good. It's really well produced. It's very quality stuff. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to bring Brad on and to talk to him a little bit about what he's doing on YouTube. I know some of you are also interested in creating your own channel, like not just YouTube channel, but maybe doing courses, right? Like I've done Pluralsight courses. Well, Brad has some experience with that too, and so maybe he'll share that with us. So welcome, Brad, and thanks for coming on.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate that.
So why don't you give a little bit more background about what you do and what you're about for everyone that's not familiar with you yet?
Sure. Yeah. I started out as a freelance web designer. I quit my job to work for myself. I love the idea of the location independent lifestyle and the freedom that went along with that. And I started, I built up a client list on the side as I was working. And then eventually I quit my job, started a freelance business as a web designer. And there's a lot of ups and downs with freelancing in general. And so there was one point where I had a really low month in terms of income. And so, I wanted to look for ways to diversify my income sources because I really was only relying on just client work.
Right.
And, so I was wondering, should I, teach what I know? How do I do this? Should I try and book a room out at the local university and maybe try and round up some people and charge a ticket price, or what should I do? So I started brainstorming. I was talking to my wife, and after a few days of really thinking about this, I came across teaching online courses, and I thought,
Right.
oh, that's perfect. I can, this is a great idea. I can package up what I know in a video course and I can sell it. And so I ultimately found Udemy.com, and obviously most people have probably heard of that. It's a huge online course kind of marketplace. And I got in there pretty early when it was pretty young. And I was able to garner a lot of popularity from my first course because of my teaching style. I have a theater and performance background. So I think I think I was more engaging and entertaining than most programming tutorials.
Right.
That I presented things. So I think that really caught on. And then I was able to get a lot of students.
Yeah.
And so that kind of took off, and it allowed me to kind of balance both freelancing and creating more and more coding courses and tutorials. And that's kind of spread all over the place now at this point. So that's kind of where the 101 on Brad Hussey.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's a few things to unpack there. We've got somewhat similar stories too, I think, in background. And one of the interesting things too, I ended up getting my start on Pluralsight when that platform was young, which that's something like for a lot of people that are listening, is like being a first mover is really it really is important. Like, some of these platforms, you can't just always necessarily copy what someone did that's successful, because some of it is that being a first mover that really helps. But yeah, I think one of the other things too that I think we probably share is that one of the things with my Pluralsight courses is I tend to be up and down on the voice. I did some acting training before I got into development, and I sort of learned how to do inflections and control my voice and bring energy to things. And I think that makes a huge difference in programming tutorials. It really, because it's a dry subject, and so if you can add a little bit of entertainment value, I think people don't fall asleep. To be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I swear half the time I'm cracking myself up, and I'll go up and I'll tell my wife this awesome joke that I did in this video. And I think like I'm the only one who thinks it's funny, but apparently there are a few other people I'm fooling out there. So
Yeah, wives don't tend to think that that stuff is too funny. You know, I'll send my wife like I sometimes when someone gives me a snarky comment on YouTube, I'll reply back to them some brilliant like
yeah,
burn, and she'll say that's kind of childish. I'm like,
yeah.
well, I think it's great.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny.
But yeah, but that's one thing, you know, I think I watch a lot of like auditions from, I think a lot of people that are trying to audition for Pluralsight or something like that, or want to get into. And a lot of times they speak very monotone and dry, and they try to be very professional. And what
Mhm.
I find is that, like, I mean, knowing your stuff is being professional, but bringing personality is so important. And so many people, they have the opposite. They don't, they don't do that, and they don't realize that they're missing out. That's the thing that's really going to actually make a difference.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So let's see. So I'm trying to think where to unpack this. There was a few things too. Interesting that I want to talk about too is the idea that you were, if I understand correctly, you had a full-time job, and then you started doing freelancing on the side as you're building up that business before you could quit.
Yeah, totally. So I started to kind of go back just a little bit more from there. I went to college to learn web design, web development, and a bunch of different new media sort of uh, different things in new media.
Right.
And a big thing that I really took away from that was web design, web development. And that was something, I knew nothing at the time. And learning, to code, learning to design, those really resonated with me. So from the moment I started learning even just the bare minimum amount to,
Right.
offer as a professional service, I was able to get, my first paid client for a very small amount.
Right.
But that, led to another client and then a referral and then another client. And so over the course of maybe two or 3 years on the side, I'd built up a client list that by the time I was working this full-time job, I realized, oh man, I'm working pretty much 2 full-time jobs here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Working in the day and going home, I'm spending a couple hours with my wife, and then I'm working until 2 a.m. just on my freelance business. There, basically, I had to make the decision, do I want to stop doing this freelancing thing or cut back on it? Or do I want to, try and phase myself out of this job?
Right.
And so that's the choice that I made. I decided to phase myself out. I offered to, I planned it for about 8 months, and I offered to, work on a contract basis until they found my replacement. And that was, essentially my first full-time client. So that was, my old job. So that was kind of a cool transition for me, so that I was able to make that switch and reliable, steady income until I started building up my client list even more.
Nice. Okay. And how long was it? Like what kind of time period are we talking about from, like, how long ago was that, I guess, when you first started learning web design and development?
Yeah. That was, I went to school in 2009, your college program.
Mm.
But basically within a couple months of me starting in 2009, I'd already had my first client.
Wow.
So, I essentially was freelancing on the side from 2010 up until, which was 2000. And so I quit my job at the end of 2012. And then basically from 2012 till now, I've been doing it full time.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So yeah. So I think that's kind of a cool example, because I think a lot of people that are trying to get into programming, I get two kind of things. I get one, oh, I'm too old. Like there's like, I'm 25, I'm too old. Right. Or I'm like 30. And then I'm like, okay, all these kids have a head start on me. And then the other thing I get a lot is, oh, I don't know enough yet. I couldn't teach. I couldn't freelance. I got right. And it's like, I like hearing stories like yours where it's like, okay, I learned this stuff. I can go and sell. I don't have to know everything. Just starting out, you still have a value. And as you gain more experience and knowledge, your value obviously goes up, but you can teach, right. I mean, you could share what you're learning, and you can actually have clients right from the beginning. right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah, totally. A huge thing that I get asked, because I also have, from doing this freelancing, just from learning as I'm going, I've kind of acquired a ton of experience and knowledge, and a lot of little failures here and there to know what not to do and what to do. So I've packaged that up in another course. And so I have a course that's just about freelancing. And so a lot of my students who, in that course, they ask me a similar thing. I have people, as young as probably 20 and up to 60 years old. And some of them are like, am I, did I miss the, ship here? Did I miss the boat?
yeah,
And it's not the case. You can learn a new skill. And, a big complaint or worry that people have is, when do I have to like do what you did and do this on the side for 3 years before I can actually do it? I took the slow route. I didn't know at the beginning that I was going to do it full time. I just thought, hey, this is an extra, I'm making more money. I'm paying my bills on the
right.
side, or I'm putting more money in savings. It wasn't like a fast track by no means. And so, you can start learning something, and within weeks of, learning the bare bones of that skill, whatever it is, you can actually start, getting paid for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I think honestly the approach that you took at least that's the one I took too. And I think that's the one that really makes the most sense for a lot of people, is because I know a lot of people that like, they just quit their job and they're like, okay, I'm going to start my business. And that doesn't work out for two reasons. One of them is that they're not used to working hard.
Yeah.
And anyone who's ever worked for themselves knows that, yeah, you work hard at a regular job, but when you're working for yourself, you work like 1 hour is 2 hours. You're working twice the amount when you put in the same amount of time.
Yeah.
And then also just that transition. It's like, when you have those side jobs, like when you've built that business on the side, you can now transition. And I mean, it takes some time to pay your dues, but now I hate the idea of like just having a gun to your head, like I got to make money, right?
Oh
But
yeah.
if you transition, it's so much better.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's interesting too. I think also that I'd be curious to get your take on this, on the progression too, because I think a lot of things that I hear from a lot of developers is they have this. I have this kind of, I think I did this blog post a while ago on like 4 levels of freedom for software developers, and like at the first level, you're like you're working a job for someone else, but the second level, you're a freelancer, right? And everyone thinks, oh, that'll be so awesome if I had my own company, and then what you realize is you got like multiple bosses, and you're not quite you're location independent, but not really time. And
Yeah.
and then most freelancers eventually say, I need a product, because I'm tired of trading my time, for. So then they get to the third level of freedom, where they're getting product supported income, but then you still have a boss because it's what your audience wants.
Yeah.
And then that fourth level is that level where it's like you've got enough money, you've made enough success where you don't have to, you could do whatever you want. You just do things because they're fun. It still makes money, but
Yeah.
you're not influenced by anyone. You're finally your own boss. So I guess my one question would be, does that model, have you experienced that model? Does that, seem like something that's true to you in your experience?
Yeah. Totally. That's an interesting way of putting it, because that was when I first started out and I was working this full-time job. I really started to realize, this, having a boss, having a full-time job, I'm supposed to do with this schedule. I'm going in rush hour traffic. I'm doing all these things, and I don't like this. It doesn't work for me. And I feel like I'm not, I get these 8 or 10 hours in the day I'm working for this boss or this company, and I feel like I'm not maximizing it, but I'm not passionate about maximizing my time here. I'm gonna have 1 or 2 tasks, and I'm gonna spread it over the course of the day because that's what everyone does. And even if I do 10x my output at this job, I'm not gonna get 10x the pay.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so for me, that was like, okay, you know what? I need to focus on this other thing so that I can, be my own boss, and I can 10x my output and get ideally 10x the, at least 2, 3, 4x the income from putting in more, producing more. And when I first made the switch to freelancing, it did feel like that. There was like this window. It was almost like the honeymoon phase,
Yeah.
where you realize like, oh wow, this is freedom. Like, your schedule is free. You get to work when you want, however you want to do it. You could take breaks at any point. You can work in the night, you can work in the morning, you can work on the weekend. You could take 2 days off. You could take a long weekend. You could do whatever you want as long as you got the work done. And so there was a stage there where I was like, this is it. This is
right.
This is magic.
Yep.
And it truly, truly felt like that, because it was that. But then eventually that, you start to get used to that, and that's normal. And
Right.
and then you start to think like, okay, well, how do I take this to the next level? Or, oh, that client was particularly difficult. I don't want to work with clients like that anymore. Or maybe you get a lull in your freelance business, and now you're like worrying about money, and you're worrying about, is this sustainable? And so then that leads you kind of get a fork in the road. You got to stop. You either stop doing it, or you find the next level.
Right.
And,
exactly.
For me, that the next level was creating an additional income source, which, was product income, an online course. And so that, I was saying, okay, what do I know? What can I teach? How can I package that up? I figured out how to do that. And then when I sold, put that up for sale, and I made, $40, that was, it blew my mind.
Yeah, that's exciting, right? That even though it's a smaller amount,
Yep.
I remember getting my first $5 affiliate income from my blog, like an Amazon affiliate, and I was like, I made my own money.
Totally.
And people are like, wait a minute, you're doing Pluralsight courses and you're making, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You've been a software developer, making, 6-figure income, and you're excited about $5. I was like, yeah, but I did it all by myself. No one helped me.
All me, totally. And so that's what that felt like. And then with every new sale, with every new purchase, and then you'd wake up in the morning and you literally would check your statements and see, wow, I made 6 sales while I was sleeping, like those sorts of things. And that blew my mind. And that made me realize, okay, I got to focus on that. How can I reshift my schedule so that I add more time to create another course and create a promotion strategy around that? Should I put it on YouTube? Should I put it on this? Should I create this out of it? Should I make a small version and a big version? What should I do? And then you work with, building that side of things. And then you work with, continuing your freelance business. And then you start to realize like that's kind of the level of, now I feel more free. Now I really don't have that boss. I'm kind of, once that product income starts to grow and ideally match your freelancing income, then you reach that next level where you're thinking, I truly have no boss, and I do make money in my sleep, and I'm not, I have something that is one-to-many versus one-to-one.
Yep.
And so, then you kind of have that honeymoon phase again.
Exactly.
Where you're like, this is awesome. And then, it becomes a bit more normal. I constantly remind myself this is a great thing, but you have to, at some point you realize, okay, this is normal. I want to treat it as my normal so that I can find out how to make it better or how to get to the next level. And so that's when you start to kind of, realize, okay, for me to truly be free of any sort of worry about maybe money or time, or, you could make a huge income and still worry about, stability, financial stability and income and money and all these sorts of things at any level. So it's a balance of, being humble and, realizing what you have is really great. But you also have to find ways to make that sustainable so that you can reach that next level. And so those different tiers that you were kind of mentioning there, that's interesting because it is, you're freelancing. Oh, I have no boss. Oh, I kind of do have many bosses. And then you got these courses, and then you go, now I don't have a boss and I have passive income, but then you realize, okay, I have, 100 students, 1,000 students, 100,000 students who are emailing me and telling me what it is that I want, or what I did wrong, or what they did like or didn't like. And then I'm like, okay, now I got to create that. Now I got to create that. And then I have like 8 months out of creating products and courses that my bosses are telling me.
Exactly.
And so I think really it only gets, maybe once you get to that point where you have established yourself enough, you have systems in place, maybe you have a steady stream of automatic kind of passive income, that perhaps you can reach that level. But I'm sure you'll find a way even in that level to, find something to, complain or worry about or stress about.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's that hedonistic treadmill, right? Like we're always, you get to the new high, and then it's the new. And I do the same thing. I have to remind myself. Sometimes I have to wake up and be like, John, you're living like a dream. Like this is crazy. Like if
Yeah.
you didn't want to work today, you don't have to. You could just walk down to the beach, like because you got to remind yourself of that. Otherwise, I got something in my hair, but you'll forget that. And even then it's kind of interesting. I found too, like I got trapped in the business even when I was a creator because I didn't have processes and I didn't have people. I read this book called E-Myth. If you haven't read that one, it's a great book. But then I started hiring a team, and now that I've got a team, now I'm a lot more free. Now I realize at a whole different level. I could go to China for 3 weeks or whatever, and everything's running like it's taken care of. I don't have to do much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting how that happens. And the kind of the irony too is like I've got a routine now, right? It's like I wake up at 6:30. Like I've got a more strict schedule than I did when I had a regular job. Right. Where I would just kind of roll into work, sometime around 9. And now like I've got it down to the T because that's what I can need the routine. Like even though I've got more freedom, I exercise the discipline more. But
yeah. Oh, totally.
cool. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing then now with what's your strategy. I know that you've got your YouTube channel and the tutorials on there. What kind of things are you teaching about on YouTube, and what's your kind of game plan at this point?
Yeah. Well, when I first started out with YouTube, I just simply had an account because everybody had an account, and I would rarely use it. I'd put I honestly I think the first videos, if you go way back to the beginning, were when I was in musical theater school.
Okay.
And I have snippets of old musicals that I was in, tap dancing and singing and acting and doing musical numbers. So that's like the very beginning, and I don't think many people know that.
I'm just looking it up now.
Totally.
Little Women. Here we go.
Yeah.
There we
Women,
go.
Hot Mikado, all these sorts of things. So there's a bunch of that stuff in there, and I like leaving it in there because it's kind of like an honest look into how I started.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was just out of high school, going to college, and I thought I wanted to be like a musical theater actor. I honestly thought my big dream was to go to Broadway. And this was kind of my way of exploring that and, understanding and realizing the realities of, becoming a theater actor. And I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do as a profession.
Right.
Performing and acting and singing, all these things are still to my core things that I am passionate about and enjoy. But it's like that was kind of a little snip into my past that I like to have there to look back on. And sometimes I'll get an email from a client or an audience member being like, I had no idea you did this. Like, it's hilarious and awesome. So
I like the crepe video in there too.
And so that was like my almost foreshadowing into like my creating like tutorials and stuff.
Yeah.
I made crepes all the time, and for a school project in college, we had to create an e-learning site, and so I created mine all about crepes, and so I had the tutorials in there. So that's it was like this really peppered sort of like videos that there was no brand, there was nothing. It was just like a place where I put stuff that friends and family might come across. So that was always in the background. But when I first created my first course, it was on Udemy. But what I did was, Udemy always gave you all these little tips and resources and I was new to all this, online business and everything. So I, was reading their blog posts and different resources. It said, use YouTube to promote your paid course. And this was like my introduction to funnels and everything. So it was, it was like, okay, create like a teaser version of the course where you give value. And then you tell them, like, if you like this, sign up for the paid course over here. And so I thought, oh, that's a brilliant strategy. I'm going to do that. And so I essentially did that, trimmed the course down to like 2 or 3 videos.
Yep.
you know, and then I put it up on YouTube and I thought, this is great. And I started to get a lot of views on these videos, these old kind of bootstrap. I think it was Bootstrap. Yeah, it was an old Bootstrap course for Bootstrap 3.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had a lot of views because people were looking for it was huge at the time, and I was getting a ton of traffic. So I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I've never seen that sort of traffic on my YouTube channel before. But then I started to notice a trend of comments being like, this is like such a scam. Like, I hate this. This is awful. And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, I hate that you're just bait and switching me. You're just teasing me with no value. You're just saying this is what's in the course. And if you want to do anything more, you have to go and give me $100.
Right.
So I started to, you know, and then I was getting annoyed and I was, you know, I was angry. I was like, this is what are these people thinking? Like, this is a great thing. And, you know, how am I supposed to make money online otherwise? Like, this is crazy. And, I had a talk with my wife, who's kind of like my, she's like my business strategist. She's always has these ideas of like, you should try this or don't do this, or maybe say this thing or create this thing. And we've kind of had this little mini mastermind. And she was like, why don't you just take that course? And I was like, yeah, take it off YouTube and give it to those suckers. Right. And she was like, no, take the whole paid course.
Yeah.
And put it on YouTube entirely for free.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that's crazy. No, that's a crazy idea. And so she was like, no, do it. That she said, when I started learning photography, I only watched YouTube videos, and I still watch and follow a lot of these photographers that taught me how to be a photographer myself. And, you know, they're creating a brand. They're creating kind of a brand around themselves that people follow and adore. And I was like, all right, I don't know if this is going to work, but this was like one of my only paid courses at the time. So I was like, this is going to really mean, I don't know what this is going to do. So I took it down and put it on YouTube for free. And within, I should have pulled up the numbers, but within like a week, I started getting dozens of subscribers. And at this point, I think I had like 40 YouTube subscribers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started getting dozens of subscribers and, you know, view after view after view. And then I started to realize that it was working, and people were sending me a ton of comments and questions, and I was getting subscribers like crazy. And from that point, almost exclusively, I left that. That was like my only thing I put on YouTube for like a year. And I think it got me like, I don't know, like 8,000 or 9,000 subscribers, just the
Oh, wow.
one. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, that's something that's going to work. So that's when I realized, okay, now I need to create like a YouTube strategy and actually serve this YouTube audience, because a lot of this YouTube audience, they weren't the same as my, you know, Udemy audience, because they were looking for different things. They weren't looking for like paid online courses. They were looking for quick one-off tutorials that they can learn how to code a modal window in Bootstrap, or, you know, how do you style a button, or things like that.
Right.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so I created a couple more free courses, a PHP one, another Bootstrap 4 one when the Bootstrap 4 Alpha came out. And, you know, I had a series of freelancing videos. And so I had this YouTube strategy that was working. And, you know, at this point, you know, I went, and that was only a couple of years ago, you know, I went from like 50 subscribers, and now I have 25,000 subscribers. So that strategy, creating really, really valuable, high quality, free content and tutorials around web development and web design, and specifically Bootstrap and, you know, HTML and CSS, that really took off.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so that's kind of like how that kind of grew into something. And I treat it, you know, very carefully now. I know that it's a real thing. And I think about, okay, what do I need to create for YouTube? What's my strategy for my next thing? And I also consider, from, you know, an online business standpoint, how do I maximize, how do I, you know, capitalize on this traffic, you know? And I started coming across, you know, all these online entrepreneurs like Pat Flynn and, you know, John Lee Dumas and a bunch of these, you know, that I'm sure you know all about all of these guys. And I started to realize, oh, I can, maybe I can get them to opt in to download something. So what I would do is I'd get them, I'd say, like, if you want to download the course files for this tutorial, just give me your name and email, and I'll email you, automatically all of the course files, the Photoshop files, anything that's associated with the project. And
Oh,
then you can,
nice.
yeah. And so that got me, like, it still gets me dozens of new email subscribers a day because of the amount of traffic from YouTube. So then it started to become more of a cohesive thing where I could, do YouTube stuff, and, I can get that traffic to come to my site, subscribe to my email list. And so I can use that for future promotions and kind of create a brand outside of just being on Udemy, which at this point is nice because I actually have this, this system that in place from YouTube and from my own blog and different sites that, kind of grew out of me realizing that I'm getting traffic on these simple and useful tutorials on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's a good, and it's kind of funny. I've always talked about this idea of like I give away 90% of what I do for free and charge for 10% of it, and that's really like, when you give people a lot of good free value. I mean, heck, the videos that you do on YouTube, right? It's like
Yeah.
they will buy other stuff from you. In fact, you can't even like, for example, right now I'm writing another book, and I'm giving away the book, the chapters. I'm publishing them on my blog. And some people are like, well, wait, you shouldn't do that. You should only give part of the chapters. I'm like, no. You don't understand. So it's not going to even hurt book sales. It's going to help book sales, because
Yeah.
the people that are getting value, that are reading it chapter by chapter on the blog, when I say, hey, would you like to buy a hardbound version of this book? They're like, oh, I love this book. Yes. I want to have
Yeah.
this on my desk. Yes, I totally, or I don't even need it. I'm just going to give you, $15 because, I feel like you helped me a lot, dude. So here you go. And so I'm just going to
Cool.
buy the book, or, share it. And I think that's a lot of people when they start getting into business, they don't realize that you got to give a lot before you get like that,
Yeah.
give and build that audience up, and
Yeah.
then you benefit a lot from that. So
Definitely. Yep. Definitely.
cool. Well, that's I think I wish you well with it. Looks like you're growing, and like I said, you're producing really good content out there. And for everyone who's watching or listening, definitely go and check out Brad's channel. I'll put a link. Hopefully, we'll get a link here, and put a link in the description so you can subscribe to his channel. Check out some of his courses and stuff. And yeah, anything else you want to promote or?
Yeah, I mean, like, since we're here on YouTube, I think this is a great, we're in a great environment to, check out my YouTube channel. I put a bunch of free tutorials on there about web design, web development. I have freelancing stuff on there. That's another big part of my business because I have such a background in it, and experience that, I had a lot of demand from these designers and coders, these people who I taught how to, create professional websites. They thought, now how do I make money with them? What do I do? Now I know how to code. Now I'm a great designer. I'm a great developer. Now what do I do? And so I thought, well, the next step is to either go get a job somewhere or do what I did and create a freelance business out of it. And so they're like, well, how do I do that? What's my next step? What's the next right step? And so I created training material on that. And my blog, bradhussey.ca, is all about freelancing, how to start your freelance business. I have a free email course that's all about getting, your first paid client, where you find them, everything about freelancing. That's, the other big part of what I do for web professionals specifically. So YouTube and bradhussey.ca, that's kind of my main spots.
Awesome. I love those. The email courses really do well. That's what, as a programmer, I do a lot of those email courses, and those are great because you're giving people free value, and you're also giving it to them in that medium that that they're so active in, and that
Totally.
you eventually sell a product to. So that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, Brad. Well, thank you. And like I said, go check out Brad's channel, and I'll talk to all of you next time. Take care.